Hello, I would love to welcome you to this edition of the Men's Room. We're very excited to have two things happen. I am joined with my co-host Konrad and our special guest today, RJ. And what I thought that I would share is, why do we have the Men's Room show? What is my role in all of this? And honestly, my role is to be a men's advocate from a woman's perspective. And that is the whole purpose and premise of why we have this particular space. And it's a space where men can come and open up, they can have a voice, and we can educate, empower, and inspire other men to do the same. And so, with that, I'd like to have Konrad take the floor.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Konrad Szeklicki, and I'm a mindset coach, sales business consultant, and a hypnotherapist. A handful of years ago, I've realized that providing that holistic kind of a service bridges the gap between various kinds of personal development. And as a person who is very passionate about how we are these days, considering the state of the society, considering everything that is happening in the world, I'm inviting everybody to go on that journey of self-discovery, to find out what it is that is truly important to you, to rediscover yourself amidst everything that is happening in the world at this time, and to find peace with who you are, what you represent, and who you wish to be. And so I'm delighted to be joined today by Linda and RJ so that we can go on that journey of self-discovery and add another voice to that selection of perspectives and great people who have a lot to offer when it comes to facilitating that ongoing conversation about just how important it is to be yourself in today's society. Over to you, Linda.
Thank you. And so tonight's topic, I'm actually pretty excited about. And RJ is going to be bringing about an issue of being aware of when you should admit you have a problem. And so a lot of times we'd rather ignore it than face it. And a lot of times we choose to opt out. However, choosing to opt out isn't really going to help us. It's going to hold us back. And so I'm really curious and excited to hear your story, RJ. Just really what that looked like, where you started from before you came to that place where you did have a problem, you admitted it, and the things that you learned along the way so that we could have that space where we could like paint that picture of what you went through and really where you came to, and you came to the other side, which is that growth that you experienced. And so what better way than to start really than to have you go ahead and share that with us right now.
Absolutely, and it's a story I'm excited to tell people. Um, I'm in a great place right now because of the journey I've gone through, and I'll get to what my problem was and how that worked out and how I came to the truth, right? Because it's been something I've been very aware of for a long time, but I didn't consider it a problem. Um, I have been in this online space for years, right? Like I started this journey of self-discovery over 12 years, actually, yeah, over 12 years now that I've been learning about myself and trying to apply myself and become better. And then somewhere along that journey, you can't help but want to give back and help but want to help others, right? And just like Konrad mentioned, that's part of the self-discovery. We become something else.
Mhm.
And through that journey, we want to help everybody else to embrace it and grow with it and become better and live a better life for themselves. So that's where I've been for a long time. And I've been trying to set myself up as an authority and a coach in this online space. And I've been doing fairly good at it. I've built up a name for myself. I built up an audience. I built up, a lot of connections in this world and in this industry. And I'd like to believe I've served them fairly well throughout that journey. But there was always something in the way. There was always something blocking me, something always preventing me from showing up, from being there, from, truly setting myself up and setting up my authority. And that came from my character, right? Like, it says a lot about who I am when I'm constantly canceling, postponing, and just not being able to look, broadcast, put out content because of my problem. So let me tell you what my problem is, because I had to admit it. I had to admit it to myself before I could admit it to anybody else. I am an addict. That's, like, I'm in a program now because I've come through this journey. I'm in a program that helps me with my situation because I was addicted to something so simple that I didn't think it was a problem. I thought I had control of it. I was addicted to marijuana. Now, many people out there may be addicted to marijuana and, maybe drinking alcohol, maybe doing other recreational drugs or maybe harder drugs that prevent them from being who they truly could be, right? Because it was marijuana, I thought, no big deal. I smoke when I smoke. I, you know, keep it away from work, right? My full-time job, because of my profession, because of it being a responsible position. I wake up in the morning, I go do my job. I'm a responsible person. I come home at night, I chill out, I have a little bit of smoke. I'm relaxed, I'm enjoying life, no big deal. But it turns out it was a big deal. First of all, like I said, it was preventing me from showing up, right? Numerous times I'd be too baked. I'd have to cancel because I can't let people know that I'm a pothead, right? I'm an addict. People can't see that. Otherwise, it would affect my image. There were times where um, I can't do posts because, again, people would see that. They would recognize that. Who am I going to trust this person? Because look at him, he's stoned. You know what I mean? I don't want to listen to this person. So it prevented me from showing up on occasion because of that. Now, if I had broadcasts or interviews, I would wait until after I have my interviews and things like that. But I couldn't wait to go and have my smoke and chill out, and you know what I mean? So it's and this is one of the things of being an addict is it's always about I want more. How am I going to get more? I can't wait till the next time I have more. So it's always something that you're focused on. That's obsessing in your life, right? It's something that is an obsession. And until you overcome it, you can't do anything about it. And then there was always the problem that it was affecting my personal life. My wife was not a smoker. She didn't enjoy that about me. She didn't like who I was when I was smoking. And even at times, my kids knew what was going on. And they're like, because when I get angry, frustrated, they're like, you know what? Why don't you just go out to your shed, go chill out, and come back in 10 minutes, right? So there was that. So all of these things prevented who I was as a person and affected not only my professional life, but my personal life as well. And then I'd quit several times because I was trying to deal with it with me. Because again, to me, it wasn't a problem, right? I could go do it. I could go try it. It's not a problem, but it was a problem. And it came to a head a couple of times in the last year or so where my wife and I just had it out over this, right? I quit. I was off it for several months, but then I went back to it because, it's not a problem. I can control it. Then now I'm addicted. Now I need to have more. Now I need to get more. How do I get more? How do I have more? So I had to admit to myself again, after one more little battle between my wife and I finally said, you know what? I can't do this. I need to find a way out. I'm an addict. I need to stop this. So until I admitted to myself, I'm an addict. I can't control myself with this. The next question was, I need help with this. Where am I going to find help? And now I have resources at work, employee assistance program. Grateful for it because I reached out to them, had a conversation with them. But my counselor was all about, well, you need to discover meditation. You need to breathe and do some, relaxation exercises and that's all well and good. I've learned a lot of that in personal development, so I know how to do that. Still didn't prevent the desire to want to go smoke more, right? So I thought there has to be another way. There has to be some help out there that can help me to conquer this addiction, to conquer this problem. And I thought, oh, people with alcoholics, if it was an alcoholic, I can go to AA. And as soon as I had that thought, I'm like, they have a program for narcotics. And so I looked it up online, found out more information about it, found out there's meetings all across North America. I don't know about Europe, and I'm sure there are, but I found out it's all over the place. And where's the next meeting I can get? And I will say, I was scared and nervous to walk into that room, but I found a meeting. I attended, and the very first thing is they're welcoming, right? We have conversations about people opening up about their problems, opening up about their issue, not mentioning the drug. Like, one of the things we say is not to be drug specific, because the drug doesn't matter. It's the addiction that matters. It's the problem is we need this substance. We need more of it, and it controls us. We don't control it. But by having these conversations and knowing that there are other people in this room who are just like me, and I don't know what their drug issue was, I don't know what their substance was, but they're living the same life, just trying to control this urge. So I admitted this to myself. I changed my life. I found meetings. I've now just received my 60-day keychain. You know what I mean? So I'm excited about that. But because that means a lot to me, knowing that and I think this is permanent. I really do. But here's the next best part. And I think it's the sky, the cloud, that silver lining. That's the word I was looking for. Because through this process, I'd always denied God. I didn't believe that God could be a being, that God is one entity that is everywhere, in everything. How can God be everywhere? How can God let these things happen? But I've always, I was brought up on religious values, on Christian values and Christian faith. But I always questioned the faith, especially because of some of the things I witnessed. And I walked away from the church in the 1980s, just before I was 12 years old, because of some of the things that were going on within my church. So when I walked away from the church, I walked away from God. And it's probably because I walked away from God that these things have been, it's been a natural progression of disaster, struggle, these things happen. I'd get a little bit of leeway, but then something would happen to bring it all down. Because I didn't have that spirit within my life. The God is the Holy Spirit. And through all of this, my wife, when we had another, we're trying to repatch things. She says, I wish you were that guy when we married. You had a zest for life. You had, energy. You had a great spirit within you. And I went, what am I missing? I'm missing the Holy Spirit. And it was that same day where I'm like, oh my God, I need God in my life. And I opened up the book, and of course I read a passage, and it was all about God is waiting for you. You know what I mean? God, I haven't abandoned you. I'm here for you when you need me. And I realized that God's been in my life this whole time. I just denied it. I denied an existence. And then I've been reading other, texts, and it was about how God is being, not a being, not a person, God is being. God is all existence. Therefore, God can be in every place at the same time. God can be here, control this, because he is all existence. These things changed my life, changed my spirit, changed my energy, changed who I am today. So by admitting it, by admitting that I had a problem, I could now accept that problem, deal with that problem, find other people who are working on this problem. So I'm united with people who have a similar place of me. I call them my kin from the life of sin. Because that's where I was at the time, and that's where they were at the time. But we're now working to become better as individuals so that we can have our place in life and we can shine just that little bit better. And there's where, you see the lighthouse here, where I am a beacon of leadership. I am a person who likes to shine my light on the world. I live as a shining example, but this addiction, this existence, this problem kept me from truly being that beacon. But by accepting it, by living with it, by changing it, that is what a shining light does. That's what a shining example does. Look, you can have a problem out there. You can have something that you're denying, but you can accept it, admit it to yourself, and you will find a path forward, because I've done it. I know it can be done. I had another friend reach out to me the other day. He's just started a program himself. You know what I mean? So by being an example, you can set an example for other people. So there's how this one problem that I refused to admit for a long, long, long time, as soon as I was able to truly admit it to myself, my life changed for the better. And as far as I'm concerned, it's changed forever. So that's my story, folks.
Thank you for sharing that story, because it says a lot of things that I think are really important. I mean, it's one thing to have an issue and you think, oh, it's no big deal, to I have an issue, it's impacting my life. And it's like, well, do I want to do something about it? Because you could choose to leave it the way it is, but you decide, no, I want to do something differently. And so you were resourceful. You went out and found a group of people that would be a support system. So, without all that judgment. And so without, that judgment there, it makes it much easier to be able to, be open to the idea of change, to be open to the idea of trying to do something different and getting a different result. And the thing that stands out to me is the fact that it came to that realization that it was affecting your life and how you showed up. And that was the thing that, despite your wife saying she didn't want you to be going down that path where you didn't have that zest and you weren't that positive person that she knew, it wasn't enough for her to say that to want to make that change. It was a catalyst for sure to hear that, but it was you deciding that I want to do this for me. And in doing this for me, other people, your wife and your family are gonna, and people that you work with are certainly gonna benefit from that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Look, we all need a catalyst. There's something. Every change we experience is brought about by some circumstance or situation in our life. It's a fact, and it's unfortunate. I said, when I started to try and support people out there in the leadership role, I said I want to get people before they hit rock bottom, before they find that worst part in their life. But I've come to realize, look, unfortunately, you have to smack and hit that wall in order to really wake up and change your life. Look, my wife, she got pissed off at me, and we were probably to the point where she was going to leave me, right? But all of that doesn't make me change. I had to admit it to myself. And when I keep telling myself it's not a problem, it's not a problem, I'm not going to do anything about it. Soon as I realized how much of a problem it was, right? I was going to lose my wife. And I've been there before. When I started this journey 12 years ago, it's because I was about to lose my wife, my job, my home, all at once. And I said, there has to be a better way. So I started seeking that better way. This time, again, I was in a position where I was about to lose my wife. My job was okay, but I noticed it was affecting how I showed up in this professional environment that we're working in right now. And so those two things alone, I went, okay, you know what? This is something that's preventing me from going to that next. And I wanted to go to that next level, but this was the thing that was preventing it. Until I admitted it to myself, I wasn't going to that next level. I wasn't taking the steps necessary to change.
Yeah. And you know how I like to say, how I like to frame it also is that if we keep on doing what we're doing, we'll keep on getting what we are getting.
Right.
And so many people are looking for that change in their life. However, they are not willing to be that change. Yeah. So there has to be some new input. There has to be that, you know, deepening of the awareness to start with, right? That if we are our own solution and our problems are actually our solutions, then it's just a matter of turning the perspective on it. Something that might seem like a problem. I believe that, you know, our problems actually are our solutions in the end. And from a bigger perspective, you know, even though I know it must have been really difficult for you, okay? I am so grateful and thankful for you for being also so open about it. Because your life story is already a beautiful example of how a person can find their strength again. Okay? So many people don't want to talk about things like that. But you are willing to do just that, right? To
Yeah.
describe the process with all the details, also to help other people who might be still in denial. They
Yeah.
might still think, oh, all those problems will just go away at some point, maybe, hopefully, maybe next year, right? Maybe next decade. But that doesn't happen like that. Everything happens for a reason and our benefit. And, you know, you have such a beautiful case study here. If God doesn't make mistakes, then none of those years were a mistake either. You know, a perfect story of going into some difficult and challenging places and emerging a stronger man.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you know, I've been doing a lot of audio listening, and one of them that came up is Zig Ziglar. And first of all, too many of us are afraid to look into ourselves, right? We don't want to look too deeply because we're afraid of what we might find. Now, I knew this was something I was dealing with, but it wasn't a problem. But when I looked closely, like you said, those problems that we're having is often the solution. And Zig Ziglar says, look, just like with a computer where we want information to come out of it, right? In order to get that information to come out properly and to come out in the form we want, we've got to change the input. We got to, you know, fix what we're putting into the system in order for the information to come out properly out of the system. It's the same thing with us as humans, right? In order to have that input or that growth or that change, we have to, or the output, you know, the life that we want, we have to look at what's going in, right? The information that's going in. What are we telling ourselves in order to bring about this life? Like you said, we deny it, right? Because we don't want to look deeper. We say, oh, it'll change one day. It'll fix itself. Don't worry, you know, it's all going to work out. But we also have lessons to learn in life. And until we learn that lesson, we're doomed to repeat it over and over and over again. Just like my addiction. I've been addiction. I made a choice as a 19-year-old that I was going to try this beautiful, sweet tasting product. Smells nice. It's enticing. Oh, and look at the effects it gives me, right? It numbs everything out. It makes me happy. But so now it's, you know, 19, I'm 50. So there's 31 years that I've been addicted to this, that I've been dealing with this because I've been in denial about what it was doing to me. So I've been in denial about the output. But when I look deeper, I realized that it's this product, this problem that's creating the output, which is creating the problem. But if I can get rid of the input or change the input, I can change the output. So I can change with the problem, I can find the solution.
Speaking of inputs, that's a discovery right there, right? So you before you had a different input, and so when you have that desire to want to have the previous input, I imagine there's something you do differently so that desire for that previous input isn't there. You probably have a new habit or a new thing that you like to do or a new way of being that really carries you to stick with the change that you made. Because I would like it if you would share a little bit about that. If there's anything that you do differently or it drives you to keep on the path that you've been on for, you said 60 days now.
Yeah. So, back to my early days, it was John Maxwell who changed my life forever. And I read once his book called Make Today Count. When I needed it the most, I discovered a book called Make Today Count. Changed my life, changed who I was. But one of the biggest things that John Maxwell says is when your why gets stronger, the way gets easier. And I've heard these words. I have an idea of what they mean. But let me tell you, now I fully embrace these words because I know what they mean. Just like I know God is with me, I know what these words mean. My why is I want to be that person. I want to walk on the stages like Zig Ziglar, Bob Proctor, Jim Rohn, Wayne Dyer. I want to share this message of betterment, growth, understanding, possibility, potential, right? But in order to be that guy, I had to show up. I had to be there all the time. I had to keep doing and keep plugging and keep working at it. So now that's my addiction, so to speak, in the sense that I want to be that person. And that's what keeps me going. If I want to be that person, I can't be that person, right? I can't be the person who had that poor input. I need the person who takes all of this information, processes it, and turns it into to gold, right? I take that coal and make diamonds, right? So that's the person I am now, and that's what drives me.
So really what I'm hearing, it's a combination of two things. It's having that faith in God and then having those affirmations of, what is your why, and being able to really follow through and get what you want, which is to be that powerful person that shows up in leadership. And those two things together are bigger than where you came from. You don't have that desire to do the other because you have this new way of showing up and being that you're not looking to do that anymore.
Yeah. And look, I don't think that the addiction has gone away, right? It's still there, right? One of the things is, well, we have to get rid in the program is to get rid of all of our connections, our paraphernalia, our supplier. But my dealer was on every corner in the, greater, United States and Canada. It's everywhere. So my dealer is still out there. So how do I get rid of that? I have to get rid of who I am, like that want. But thank God there are supports out there. There's people out there that can help me through it. But it's really not about, replacing the addiction. It's really about what's going to drive me moving forward, right? What is it? And look, here's where it all starts. WTF, without being profane, right? What the do you want? And motivation and mantras and the words of inspiration only take us so far. We need to have action behind it, right? Without that action, we're not going to achieve. So it's totally changed who I can be because like I said, I admitted I had a problem, did something about the problem, and continual awareness. Look, I can't ever forget that I have this problem. And there's, like I said, the addiction is there, the urge is there. But I can't forget that it can call to me at any time. But knowing that and knowing I have supports in place, I'm in a better place. Like, again, the good book is there, right? We can read that for inspiration. But knowing that I have other people beside me who have gone through this and know how to live that next day, that's a big thing too.
What even as a hypnotherapist and a healer, right? When I speak to people who have any addiction at all, okay, an addiction is usually just a way of changing state. How people are is a certain way, very specific way, and so they reach out for something to change that state. And one of the things that I've noticed is that marijuana, for example, is a very specific, let's call it power plant. Okay. And marijuana brings that sense of peace. By reaching for marijuana, people get that peace on demand, that they are alive. So, for example, one of the approaches in like this might look into one's life and to realize that, okay, what is it? What it is that I can do to reach that new level of inner peace so that I don't need that crutch of marijuana. When that level of inner peace is achieved, the need to support oneself with a substance drops off because that state of peace becomes more permanent. And so that shortcut that is offered by, for example, a substance like marijuana turns out to be just a shortcut. However, it's not a replacement for the real thing just yet. That's why just taking away, right, the substance, yes, it's already a great step. However, perhaps what you might be really, after is that vastly increased level of inner peace.
Absolutely.
And yeah, that can go, from that self-discovery that we've already started to, investigate and talk about at the beginning of our conversation here. Yeah. And if you are as brave as, being so upfront about your journey, that I can only imagine that you have everything that you need in order to look into your own past, your family's past, and otherwise, and put things in order, resolve, bring conclusions, anything and everything that might come to you so that you can reach that new, higher, transcendental level of inner peace, so that when you sit on that sofa, there is just peacefulness. When you go out shopping, there is just peacefulness. When you are falling asleep, there is just that inner peace. And when you have it within, you don't need to seek it out with. There is nothing to supplement here. You just are. You rediscover yourself as that peaceful person who does not need external crutches, substances, or other shortcuts, because you realize that in the end you find that peace within. Salvation comes from within after all.
Yep. Yep. And we're afraid to look within, right? That's part of the problem.
Yeah.
But I'll also say, it's not about conclusion, because there's never a conclusion. There's only one conclusion: when the spirit is gone, right? And we know that's the point of death. But it's always about the next part of life, the next stage, the next adventure, right? Yes, marijuana or any other drug, even the harder drugs, like when you stick in that needle in, you're trying to find that instant gratification, that instant peace, that instant block from all of these things that we're trying to avoid, right? But look, I'm on a natural high right now, and I have been for some time. And since I've decided to change my life, I don't need substances at this stage in my life. And that's because, and I'll get to this in a second, because there's a poem that I made Linda familiar with. We use it in Beacon of Leadership, by Marianne Williamson. And I'm just going to reiterate the first paragraph, which says, "Our greatest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our greatest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We're afraid of who we could be. We're afraid of what life would look like if we go to that next level, if we take on that next project. If I have to move and sell my house and like all the things I've been going through, if I have to do all this, I'm afraid of what might happen, how that's going to affect my life, what kind of changes are going to come about because of everything I have to go to get to that next level. But it's because we're afraid of that that we don't embrace it. So we don't have peace. So we're always on edge and we're never finding that inner peace. But by, like you said, looking within, right? Finding out who I am as a whole, knowing what the do I want and how can I go get it. And maybe it takes God or some other spiritual intervention to get there. But by knowing that I have the power to do so, there's where I think we can find a little bit of inner peace.
Absolutely. There's power to that, that's for sure. Mm-hmm.
And I would also maybe add, because it's such a great opportunity as another perspective for people who might find it an investigating, an interesting area of investigation. From, again, an energetical and healing perspective, marijuana is a very feminine energy, very pure feminine energy. And from what I've seen, when it comes to people who use it, there is usually some unresolved situations and issues when it comes to females in one's life. Whether there are conflicts with one's mother, for example, or significant females in life. This is sometimes substituted by reaching for that very feminine energy of marijuana. But it doesn't resolve those potential problems or issues, unsaid words, those moments where things were left unresolved altogether. It just buys time. Without the resolution, yes, but it doesn't bring that finalization and normalization of relationships with one's significant females in life. And I see it time and time again when people mention that they use, especially if they use marijuana heavily, there might be a sense of abandonment, for example. There might be a sense of feeling treated unjustly, or other ways when those important for us women weren't quite as present in our lives as we would like for them to be. Maybe they didn't show up the way we expected. And in the end, that is also one of the ways to bring that inner peace back into place, to find that balance again, to realize that forgiveness is a huge, tool for healing and transcendence. When we decide that we don't want to carry on with a huge backpack full of resentment or heaviness or other quite, challenging and difficult states, when we decide that enough is enough and we decide to make peace with those other people, especially those people who are so significant in our life, this is where we can set ourselves free. It's up to us in many cases. And it does not mean, just to perhaps mention that as well, when we forgive, it doesn't mean that those other people, that what those other people did is suddenly okay. It might not be okay at all. However, what we are choosing to do is to bring a certain chapter to a close and to free ourselves from that burden of having to carry heaviness about a given situation or another. And that in and of itself, again, can bring a whole new level of inner peace. And in many cases, our relationships also miraculously begin to get better because people sense that energetical shift. People sense that emotional change in how we approach them. And suddenly, not only do we feel better and lighter because we have gone through the journey of forgiveness, but also, as if by magic, those relationships with other people also tend to improve very, very quickly indeed. Because we feel lighter about it. We feel lighter about life. We feel lighter about those relationships, and we set everybody free. And that can elevate, the level of love, joy, forgiveness, and a certain transcendental peace within the whole family. And it's a huge opportunity, especially if there is, let's say a certain indication that, okay, well, I'm going to at least give it a try. I'm going to look at, the quality of my female connections in life and think, okay, are they really balanced? Do they feel wholesome? Do they feel empowering for all parties involved? Are we understanding each other? Do we even hear each other? Or have we stopped listening a long time ago? Can I hear you afresh? Can I allow myself to hear what you want to say afresh? Without the judgment of the past, what happened, happened in the highest good of all. God doesn't make mistakes. Can I now choose to hear you again afresh and make a better choice, different decision? Perhaps you wanted my good. Perhaps I couldn't see that before. Perhaps what you were saying came from a place of love. However, my definition of love maybe was different back then. Perhaps now, as a more, mature person, aware, right? I can also look, when I look at the quality of my relationships in life, I realize now, after years, decades on this planet, that, yeah, those people wished me well. They were trying to convey certain message. Maybe we did not understand each other each and every time. However, when I look at what was said and done, I can see that from a certain perspective, they loved me back then. They were just expressing it in a way that I couldn't quite understand. But from their perspective, they were making the best choices they could with that awareness that they had back then. And I can forgive us all for that misunderstanding. They were showing me love. I couldn't see it as love. I forgive us all so that we can all move on. And if those people want to also step into that place of forgiveness, where this is also a beautiful opportunity, for people to come together, for entire families to reach that next level of love, cohesion, understanding, communication, and truly open a new chapter for those, people who are, older than us, and also for our kids, so that our kids can see how a healthy relationship within a family can look like. Now we introduce that new level of love and awareness into all this.
And quite often, but that's you're exactly right. We're blocking this stuff because of things that we have experienced in the past. You know what? I never would have. Look, I'm an extrovert, right? I'm comfortable talking to people. I'm comfortable opening up about myself. I'm comfortable placing myself in public eye, or being the center of attention. And I love, by the way, first of all, that you related marijuana to a feminine energy. First of all, we refer to it's a very fertile plant. We just, by the way, we discard the male of the plant because it's not as potent. It doesn't have that high energy. Something that we do within the human species too, right? The male, as hard as working as he is, it's the woman who runs the family. It's the woman who controls the household. It's the woman who controls the outcomes. And then we do, as men, we avoid pushing that boundary. We avoid the conflict that's created because we avoid it, which is a catch-22 in a sense, right? Um, and then, like I said, like you mentioned, we replace it. We find that feminine energy wherever we can, right? We find that that need for nurturing wherever we can. And a substance is there and gives us that nurturing because it gives us that ease, it gives us that relaxation. So I never would have related it to an avoidance with regards to, femininity. Like, is there a part of my life that maybe I avoid? But I will say, I can talk to anybody, I can have a conversation, male or female, doesn't matter. But in order to push that boundary, and not necessarily push that boundary, but in order to seek feminine companionship, those were conversations I was always scared of. I was always afraid of the outcome, right? Look, my wife, we're together because my wife was the one who said, look, I like you, I'm attracted to you, I want to, so she kind of asked me out and pushed that boundary. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be married today, right? Um, Probably because I was afraid to embrace or seek out that feminine understanding, that feminine love, that companionship that comes with getting that little bit closer, that little bit more intimate. Those are things I avoided in my life. So was I trying to replace it with this substance? Quite possibly, right? And that, look, because it relaxed my state of mind, because it put me in a different place or a different energy. Now I can maybe be a little more affectionate, be a little more open to conversation that, is a little more intimate. Because as men, we avoid the intimacy, we avoid the cuddling and the closeness and not because we're afraid of the woman, but because we're afraid of that intimate bond. Because we as men are tough, we're hard, we're struggling. We do the hard work, we do the hard things. We're tough and we're mentally strong. At least we're supposed to be. But let's face it, we're weak. Without women, without that intimate, nurturing, motherly energy, we're not as strong. So we always still question, right? Will she leave me? Will she still stay with me? If I do this, will she still want to be with me? Will she leave me if I do this? What happens if we lose it all? What? How many times have we heard out there and seen on TV? It's not about the money you have. It's not about the life you give me. I'm with you. I'll still be with you if we lose it all. It's still you and I. It's you and I till the end of the world. We hear these things, but we as men still don't believe them. So yeah, I can see where the feminine avoidance can cause a rift that we as men find a hard time embracing. And substance abuse certainly gives us that intimate closeness that we might find or we're afraid to find because we're afraid to get that intimate.
There are various ways that we can use, right? There are various, let's say, substances and otherwise, when we can try at least to find that substitute. However, like you said very wisely, at the very beginning of this, the true answer really lies within. The outside world, yeah, there might be shortcuts. Yeah, there might be tools. However, it's all in here. It's all within. This is what is the final answer in the end. We might go all the way out there only to come back home to realize that, yeah, we've had all the answers all along. And yeah, we might want to, in a way, it's like a natural part of the journey, right? We wish also, having been there myself, we wish that the answer were somewhere outside. We wish that we can just take a pill, right? Or do this, or just do that, so that somehow we don't have to do, we don't have to go on that journey of self-discovery, right? That would be nice, wouldn't it? like a really nice shortcut, and we just take this pill and suddenly life is golden and it's just it. This is it. No need to, well, do much self-inquiry. No need to, assess ourselves. No need to, face our problems, right? Because of this, one crutch or a solution or a substitute or a replacement, like you said. However, in the vast majority of cases, it is only just a matter of time. Yeah? When we realize,
Absolutely.
okay, it worked for a moment, it's not really giving me the solution that I truly want and seek. Okay, this is not it. It's not the external world that can provide that inner peace.
Yeah.
It's not the external world when I can find self-love. It's not it. The self-love, by definition, comes from within. It starts from within. If we want to find love out we have to start with ourselves. The
Absolutely.
moment we love ourselves and all creation, let's call it, this is where we can also start projecting that love outwards. And then it comes back onto us, amplified. What we sent
Absolutely.
out comes back onto us. Therefore, it's a matter of what it is that we send out in the first place, that we send, what we decide to send out in the first place. And again, going back to that space of self-discovery, the moment we realize that we have it all, God doesn't make mistakes. We are complete, resourceful, ultimately powerful as a person. And all we are asked to do, from a certain perspective, to trust that God doesn't make mistakes, that we are perfect as we are, just as we are already. And all we have to do is just to look within,
Absolutely.
to realize that that is so, and start trusting in ourselves, start loving ourselves, so that then we can find also that self-love reflected in other people.
For sure. And, there's a reason they say that, first of all, to go back to the euphemisms, truth will set you free. The truth will set you free. But then again, it also boils down to we have to look deeper within ourselves, right? And there's a reason we called this program Admit It, You Have a Problem, because that admittance is the truth that's going to set everything free.
Yeah.
Absolutely, RJ.
Go
I'm
on, Linda.
glad that you put it in that way, that you framed that up of why we came up with that title for this episode, because once you're there, the rest will follow.
Absolutely.
And it's this clean cut, right? This is one of those moments that people tend to remember, okay, a lot. That moment when they finally have that clarity, and they think, oh my, this is really interesting. And what I love about it also is that the fact that this is actually where we can prove to ourselves, if there is any proving to be had, we can choose better. We can now make completely new kind of choices, higher quality of choices from there on, and step by step improve our life, rewire ourselves, upgrade ourselves, whatever language one wishes to use. It really doesn't matter. But we can only do it from that space of awareness. Right? Awareness that
Absolutely.
leads to understanding, that leads to comprehension, that leads to transcendence. Right? In order for a problem to be resolved, it has to be understood first. And in order for it to be understood, we need to even know it exists. That's why also I love that, the title that, you've chosen for this episode, because we first need to know that the problem even exists in the first place. Only then can we truly move to the next stage and the next stage and the transcendental last stage, which allows us to fully move on.
Absolutely.
And it's, I find it also, an incredibly empowering perspective, knowing that, yeah, perhaps everything does happen for a reason. And I am really wondering, and I look forward to witnessing what you will do with your story. Okay, there is so much goodness that you can offer. There is so much hope that you can bring to other people, also by sharing your perspective, how it played out for you, what gifts life offered to you that you can now utilize to create something beautiful, to create that wave of empowerment for men and people in general, once they realize just how transcendental truth and awareness can be. How that journey within can ultimately bring that betterment, love, and fulfillment that so many people are trying to look for outside. They try to replace it with the external objects, solutions. And yet, if only they turn within to realize just how powerful they are, how loving, how kind, how compassionate. Well, imagine the society of people when people just realize that it starts with them. If you want change, right? If we want change, it starts with us. If we all turn within and very softly, compassionately look at ourselves and realize that we are perfect.
Yes, we're perfect in our imperfection, right? Even all the journey that I've had to go through has led to something. It's led to something better. It's led to this conversation we're having today, so that this conversation can go out to others who might find it, so that they can find their place of understanding, right? So it all is perfect in its imperfection, and we're meant to go through. Look, you're struggling out there right now with addiction, with anything else, with family, with, intimacy. You're struggling because you're meant to go through that, because that journey is meant for something better that you're going to experience one day. And that doesn't mean now it's going to be better. It just means that this that you're going through right now is going to lead to that betterment, that peace, that understanding that you're already seeking.
And I would perhaps also add here that there is also another perspective that can bring a lot of inner peace and healing. Let's say that if one were to look at one's journey without labeling as good or bad, it's just a journey. It's a lifetime of wealth of experience and wisdom gained by living fully every moment. It is wisdom that we get over time, what to do, what not to do. And this is also what we can pass on. We can share with other people those priceless lessons that we've learned. And if we choose to go beyond the judgment of bad or good, positive or negative, and we just apply that neutral approach. It just was. My situation just is. And it's okay. I don't have to resist it. Yeah. I don't have to force to change it. My situation just is. Now, what will I choose to do about it then? If my situation just is, and it's neither negative nor is it positive, that can actually bring about a lot of new ways of thinking. Okay, if my situation just is, and I'm not going to identify with the suffering that it might potentially bring, if I label my situation as negative, well, that means that suddenly I have options. I can choose to embrace wisdom. I can choose to embrace neutrality. I can choose to see it as a journey of self-discovery. And even that, in and of itself, can bring a lot of inner peace. By not judging ourselves over our past, we can just choose that our past just was. Until now, things played out the way played out, and who am I to judge that God made a mistake? Who am I to judge that it should have been different? Who am I to say that it definitely should have been different? Perhaps it was perfect all along. Every moment was just
Yeah.
perfect by some higher design that we might not be able to see just yet. But if we make peace with what has been and release that need for a struggle with it, as if God was against us, because perhaps he's not. Perhaps we always had that divine support all along. And God was never against us.
Yep. And it's because we
Always on our
always
side.
resist it, right? We always resist it. We always question it. So we don't accept it. We don't accept that this is just part of our journey. And because we do that, we're never truly satisfied, right? We're always seeking something else. We're always seeking the solution when, like you say, the solution is the problem. The solution is to just let it be, let it exist, sit with that. And because you choose that, you can accept it, and you will find that it will just pass. Time will move on. It's just part of your existence.
So you
And
have it. Looking at things as they are is how we come to peace with anything.
Yep.
And very synchronistically, I just spoke to someone today, and they had a different kind of an issue, let's call it. Okay. And what I've seen working really well for myself and other people, to be honest, is to become really aware of what we do. Even if you seek a certain kind of behavior, okay, one of the easiest ways to transcend that behavior is, rather than resisting it and fighting it, right, and hating ourselves for doing something, one of the easiest ways forward is, quite ironically and paradoxically, to actually start observing ourselves as we go through the motions of doing the very thing. And what I mean by that, let's say that somebody is smoking marijuana, right? Or having it in some way. Let's say that one can choose to, okay, let's say, become very aware of, okay, I am having it right now. Well, that's interesting. What is it actually giving me here? Well, that's interesting. Okay, well, and now what? Is it really the best I can be? Is it really the best use of my time? Is it really what I want from life? But really, on that deep level of, self-love and fulfillment, am I really having the best time of my life at the moment? Because in many cases, people realize that no matter the addiction, no matter it can be gaming, it can be sex, it can be shopping, it can be food, it can take, the addictions can take many different forms. And yet, the moment people start observing themselves, when they are under the influence, let's call it, of a given addiction, they begin to realize that, well, this is actually quite an unfulfilling experience. Well, this is really interesting. It was supposed to be that, a solution, long-term solution to my problems. And yet, for example, one can sit there playing games, video games or otherwise. And yet, Okay, now what? I can reach next level in that game. And then what? I can reach next level. Okay, and then what? And then the next level. And then what? Is it really the fulfillment I want? Does it give me the quality of relationships I want? Does it provide me with the quality of life that I want? How many hours more will I choose? How many days more will I choose to utilize that replacement and substitute of a real life lived fully? How much time will I still spend postponing living fully without being under the influence of a given addiction until comes the day when I finally say, well, enough is enough. I want to have that steering wheel in my hands again. I want to have it back. I want to be yet again in control of my own life and being, rather than being controlled by external substances, vices, devices, or otherwise.
Yep.
There comes that moment, and we can choose that, embracing awareness, even as and especially when we are indulging in the very behavior that seems to be a problem. Because what I've seen also very, very often is that people find that that experience is actually very unfulfilling. And there begins that lightness about coming out of it. Well, if it's really just this, if this is like 2 out of 10 of enjoyment, fulfillment, lived life fully, then I must well just move on. I might as well just find ways in which I can live that truly fulfilling, satisfying life of love, success, enjoyment, and truth. Because that life becomes that new high. This is where we find all the high we'll ever need. With that level of total presence, when we don't seek distractions, when we don't seek objects, substances, behaviors, just to run away from where we are at the moment, and actually we bring that awareness back to, okay, this is me right now with you on this recording. There is nothing else. The present, I'm okay with the present. The
Yep.
past, I'm okay with the past. The future, I'm okay with the future. I don't seek a change because this moment is also perfect, divinely perfect. Therefore, there is no need for me wanting to change it in any way. Who am I to say that this moment isn't perfect? Who am I to question God, universe, higher power, to say that this moment isn't perfect and that I should somehow go into my past to escape the present or go into the future to escape the present too? Perhaps we can discover in the end that the present moment, not only is it all there is ever, but also even the present moment is perfect. It's so divinely pure and perfect that once we truly understand that principle, well, this is life-changing stuff. This is the
And
awareness. Go on.
no, there's where also to use another biblical, euphemism is let go and let God, right? That's all it means is let this moment be what it is. Go with the existence, go with what's happening right now. Let it be good or bad, right? There's no intention behind it. It just is what is happening in this moment. And there's the perfection in it.
It is what it is. And if we can be at peace with that, then we will find very paradoxically that we have all the power to change because we stop resisting what is. We stop judging God for, well, this moment is definitely wrong. You got it wrong. But I am right, supposedly right, because somehow my mind thinks that, oh yeah, it should be different. Yeah. Oh, because this wasn't right and I didn't get this. And you know, you got it wrong, God. You got it wrong, but I know what's right. Right. And if we only turn the table on the whole situation and realize that perhaps that higher power, universe, or like I said, whatever one wants to call it, perhaps from that level of our existence, maybe we don't know it all just yet. Perhaps everything is exactly as it's meant to be, divinely timed, happening exactly so that we can have a certain experience, other people can have a certain experience thanks to us. And it all very beautifully aligns. We create experiences for other people, they create experiences for us. Good, bad, indifferent. If we take the judgment away, they are just experiences. And suddenly we realize that, okay, we learn certain wisdom because somebody has done something. They learn other wisdom because they have done something. And it's okay. And we realize that there is this interconnection, that those other people in their divinity, they do exactly what is needed. They exist also so that we can make certain choices. And by our very existence, we allow other people to make certain choices too, in that divine co-creation that are offered by our relationships in life. And if every moment is perfect and every relationship is still perfect at any moment in time, and we drop all the judgment, then we are getting closer to divinity, to realizing that this is the beginning and the end. The present moment is all there is, and it's perfect. Always has been, and always will be, because it's all in our highest good. And that would be a certain affirmation of faith and truth. Not judging God over supposed mistakes, but actually believing that all is well. That would be a certain definition of truth. Trusting God to the extent that we believe that all is well and always has been indeed.
Yep.
And perhaps on that note, we're going to be slowly drawing our discussion here to a close. However, I am wondering, RJ, what would be that message that you would like to leave our listeners with? What is it that they can do, perhaps, or how they can adjust or change, upgrade their life straight away?
I don't know what I can say that you haven't already said. You've really, had a lot of discussion on that subject, right? But look, the whole point of today was we seek outside satisfaction. We do. And then we deny that we're seeking something else, right? But like you said, letting it be, knowing that this moment is okay, right? How many times are we in an argument? We're in a situation and we can't walk away from it because we're denying it. We're trying to defend ourselves and get back out of it because I need to defend my position. But like you said, this moment, this existence between the two of us, it's meant to be here. It's meant to teach you a lesson. And if you can just go, okay, what am I hearing right now? Why am I hearing this right now? What is the purpose of this moment? You can now go back within yourself, like we've been saying all along, seeking the answer, seeking the solution, that was the problem that began the whole moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. I really hope that, thank you, people who listen to our episode today, right, and in the future, they will find that encouragement, strength, love to seek the truth within, the truth that eventually can set them free. And judging by your example and, your own courage, when it comes to that openness, that is very much appreciated indeed. Yeah. There is clearly, anything and everything is possible the moment we allow for it to be. If we allow for ourselves that opportunity to find a way out, no matter the situation, if we stop struggling with the situation and just let it be, we might find that the way out, the door out was always and has been always opened. We were just too busy staring at the wall, banging our head against it, and yet the door, the way out, has been open all along.
And so if I can sum it up with just one sentence, it's that the greatest moments in my life came about when I stopped fighting.
How beautiful.
Thank you so much, RJ, for those words, because they're absolutely perfect.
Thank you.
And this is where our show will come to a close. However, there's an opportunity to come back to the men's room for yet another conversation. And so we encourage you, if you haven't already, to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you are interested in being a guest on our show or know of someone that would make a great guest, then we want to hear about that. And so with that, I wish everyone a good evening, and we'll see you next time on the men's room.